Well, welcome everyone to the last panel of the day. I don't know how it's 9:30 in the morning for me, yet I have been doing this for 8 hours, so it's morning and
Wow.
evening and good night. But I'm so excited to host this panel today, full of some of my favorite people, new friends and old friends. And we just wanted to talk about the fashion industry, talk about fashion and AI, talk about fashion and storytelling, using fashion for good, and just cover some of all of the great topics that we're all interested in. So, how I'll start today, and Tracy, if you're having an issue with your camera, you might want to log out and then just pop back in, is probably the easiest thing to do. But let's start with some introductions. So Nova, let's start with you. If you can give us a brief introduction and background on yourself, please.
Yeah, happy to be here. Of course, love talking about fashion and tech and the future of fashion. I am an award-winning fashion designer, author, really excited about my book that's coming out later this year in partnership with Global Village Publishing called Fashion AI and the Digital Age of Fashion. So please look out for that. Connect with me for more info on that. I'm also an advisor and strategist in Web3 and AI and have been doing a lot of speaking and educational events around the globe. I'm a mom of 4, born in Jamaica, big book nerd, love dark chocolate. What else can I tell you?
I think that's a good one. I think we'll end right there. And Yolanda, how about you?
You had me at dark chocolate, Nova. My name's Yolanda Barton. I'm the CEO and founder of RevereXR. We're an interactive storytelling XR company using emerging tech and AI to recreate history and bring it to life to make it accessible and attainable and fun for everyone to enjoy. I was also named in the top 100 women of the future. I'm an XR enthusiast and really excited about the future of inclusive innovation and the role that fashion plays in that pathway. And I'm a student of the future. I'm enjoying every moment of this. And thank you for having me.
Thank you. And Shirley, a small introduction about yourself.
Hi, thanks, Anne-Marie, for having me. Hi, Nova again. Hi, Yolanda. Nice to meet you. So I'm Shirley Pellicer. I'm living in Paris. I worked in the fashion industry, especially in digital marketing, PR, for 20 years. And I've been pretty much evolving. I mean, my job has been evolving as technology has been evolving. So I'm always learning and teaching as well. One way I, get the information, and on the other way, I love transmitting it too. That's why I'm really happy to be here today with you.
Excellent. And hopefully, I think, oh, there's Tracy. We've got her. Yes. Perfect timing, Tracy. And an introduction of yourself, please.
Oh, right now. Oh, good timing. Yes,
Yes.
my name is Tracy Greenan. Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I started in the fashion industry around in the 90s, giving my age away. But I started out as an apparel designer, eyewear designer. And then I became phygital in Stockholm, Sweden with my brand AURELIA and ICARUS. And now we're transitioning to go 100% digital in fashion with the new brand. The new brand name is Aura, and we've also I'm also a founder of a nonprofit initiative called Gamers Over Guns.
Amazing. We'll talk about that in a little bit because a lot of you are doing some great impact work. So we'll talk about that. So let's just get started with some of the basics. Nova, you mentioned that you're doing your book about fashion and AI that's coming out, and I know a lot of these wonderful women are contributing to your book. What do you think the impact of innovation is going to be on the fashion industry, and what are you seeing from when you started in the industry to where you're at now?
Yeah, that's a big question. I'm gonna I'm gonna attempt to just like nibble at it. So Technology is currently impacting fashion, as we can see, and it's really exciting because it's such an old industry. And typically in the past, it was one of the last industries to adopt technology. And so for these legacy brands to put their feet forward to say, you know what, we're going to take a risk. We know how important storytelling is as it relates to fashion, as it relates to luxury, and we're going to participate in this new paradigm shift. Similar to Tracy, I've been on this fashion train for a minute, also since the late 90s. And, you know, seeing the evolution has been pretty exciting. I remember when I had my store in New York, I was looking for a body scanner where my customers, because I did couture, could step into, it was a huge cage at the time. I mean, it was really, now that I'm thinking about it, like all these apps that we have. But Brooks Brothers adopted it, and I was like, oh, I want this in my store, and I want to do the digital pattern making and just make this process so much more efficient. But it was so hard to find those resources, and it really was more accessible to enterprise organizations. And what we see now with blockchain, with augmented reality, XR, virtual reality, AI, we see the accessibility. So that's something that I think has been huge as relates to how technology is impacting fashion. We also see really true, authentic answers to problems around sustainability and fashion production waste, where we can use technologies like artificial intelligence to reduce the amount of fabric we're producing, the amount of water usage, the amount of power we're using, to identify more sustainable fabrics, to identify more sustainable designs for the right fabrics. So that's, it's not just, you know, lip service. We could actually see impact as relates to the amount of clothing that's ending up in landfills. And then we have storytelling, which I absolutely love. And, you know, bringing that back to accessibility, where we can use these tools. And I love what Tracy has done in the space with AR. We could use these tools to create immersive experiences around rich storytelling. We can rehatch old cultural heritage. We can show the importance of craftsmanship and what being handmade really means to our fashion industry. You know, we can help preserve families that have used these skills to preserve generations, you know, in terms of their livelihood, and pay more attention to the value that is around handmade, hand quality, handcrafted goods. So yes, it's great for efficiency and scalability, but then we also can use it to preserve culture, heritage, and then also to make impact, where we can now in a very large way, and not just wait for the big legacy brands to do this, we as independent creators can create extremely powerful stories that we can show on a large stage with these augmented experiences through AR and VR and XR, and help individuals use fashion as a more powerful tool of communication and self-empowerment.
Awesome. I think that leads very well into Yolanda and what she's doing. Let's talk about the storytelling and how fashion tells a story and what we're doing. And then I'd love to hear from Tracy and Shirley as well, because I know they've got a lot of experience in this too.
Yeah, well, one of the things that Nova said that really excited me was the empowering individuality, right? In a lot of history of fashion, there's a lot of restraints and confinement around who we are and what we look like and what that means for society. But in empowering individuality is the future, and fashion brands are going to prioritize that experience for their consumers by just offering more styles, more opportunities for sustainability, sizes, designs, catering to diverse body types. That's a new concept even in 2023. And you know, when the work that we're doing is preserving history and culture and heritage in cities that are at risk of their history vanishing, and that's really everywhere. I mean, as we are upscaling and modernizing our communities, our environments, and our worlds, we're often paving over history, and some of that is fashion history, and some of the fabrics, even the ones that have in my background, telling a story about a community, and how important is that story to our future and to sharing the message that we are trying to empower individuality. So it's an inclusive approach. that we're really introducing to the future of fashion. And it will ensure that everyone feels represented and celebrated, and give us the opportunity to customize and personalize our preferences. And that's key in the unique fashion identities that are coming. So we're really excited about it at RevereXR, and I'm really excited that this conversation is happening today.
Awesome. Tracy, in your experience with storytelling and fashion and your journey using innovation, because I know you're in a launch for a new company that's revolutionary this summer, but your process to get there and how technology has impacted you.
I heard about digital fashion about 2 years ago, was very intrigued about it, but then honestly, I just got distracted with everyday business and forgot about it. And it wasn't until I was approached by a digital Parisian brand to do a clubhouse talk with the Austrian digital platform that I realized this was something seismic happening in the fashion industry. And I realized if I don't hop on board now, I'm going to get left behind. So after that talk, I realized I got to get it. I got to get on board. I did some research. I went down to decentral Miami, but right in the middle of COVID, people walking around with no masks on, doing business. It's quite interesting. And I felt very much out of my comfort zone. I didn't know what I was talking about. I was just out of my element. I felt like super uncomfortable. But I realized I just got to put I have to be a part of it. So I just went up to people, up to digital fashion designers and renderers and brands that are already in the space. I said, well, look, I don't know anything about this space. I was very honest. Don't know anything about the space. Would you be interested in collaborating with a brand like me? And to my surprise, they all were very receptive. And so that's how it came about. I just started collaborating, making digital assets with renderers on the other side of the planet. And the more I was learning, it was a total learning curve. It's still a learning curve for me right now. But now that I've learned so much, I realized there's so much more benefits to digital fashion compared to traditional fashion. That's why I decided to go 100% digital with Aura, because the how it's so much lighter on the planet is fantastic. And then from a business point of view, you don't have to deal with logistics. Like during COVID, I had my boxes. There was that war broke out in the Ukraine, and there was my Ukrainian supplier no longer could supply my boxes. So I went to China, and because of these lockdowns in China, they couldn't do it either. So that was a big headache to deal with. Whereas in digital fashion, I get the stuff immediately. I can sell my stuff infinite copies if I want to. There's, digital fashion doesn't degrade. Physical fashion does. You don't have the return rate in physical fashion and e-commerce is 50%. So it's very minimal. It's kind of unheard of for digital downloads to have a return on there. So there's a lot of things that make sense. It's cheaper to make. You can experiment with different styles. There's so many more benefits. And I just thought now was the time to make a big leap and make that change, and pretty happy with it. I'm still learning as I go, though.
I think we all are, which is amazing. And that's what's fun about it. And Shirley, your background is really interesting because you've worked with a lot of luxury brands in the past. And looking at that, how have you seen the changes over the years with innovation and big brands you've worked with, like Givenchy and other types of luxury goods?
Well, like Nova mentioned before in the beginning, lots of them were unfortunately kind of missed the trend on e-commerce back in the early 2000s. They got overridden by platforms like Net-a-Porter. So I think that's one of the other reasons why now they are even more willing to go into the Web3 space, because they don't want to miss that place anymore, like they experienced 20, 25 years ago. So I think they are even more willing and daring to go there than they probably were 20 or 25 years ago, for sure. That's one of the things. What's interesting in your panel, Anne-Marie, is that it really showed that how much the digital and Web3 in particular can help both very traditional brands who have a long historical heritage to maintain it, or to maintain communities and their really specific local know-how. Or it can also help young designers, or like Tracy, to actually create her own brand and to launch very new brand from scratch. So that's it's that's one of the most exciting one of the most exciting thing in technology and in what I do every day, I think. Yes.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. So let's talk a little bit about fashion telling a story and fashion and community. Nova, you have got so many different elements that you do in terms of writing and designing and all of that. One of the topics that came up earlier today was how fashion brands are using innovation, but it's building the community and building this story that's really going to, pull people in and hook them in, but also keep them and keep them loyal. And why are some brands doing it so well where others are just rapidly falling off? What are your thoughts around that? And I'd love to hear from the rest of the panel on that idea.
Absolutely love this question, because I do feel community is going to lead the future of brand launches and brand growth. And we saw how powerful the Web3 decentralized community grew, how powerful it was and how quickly it grew. There was a need, it tapped into an emotion that, was felt. It didn't matter where you lived around the world. It didn't matter, what gender you were. It was, if you believed in this concept, you were part of this movement. And I feel when you're looking at community development, you really have to look at yourself. If it's your brand, you look at that story, that core that you built your brand by. Go back to year 1, 2, and 3. When you were doing more guerrilla marketing, more personalized outreach and curation as related to your consumer base. And if you were an independent professional or designer or personality, what makes you so different and unique? And bring those combinations together and find those like-minded individuals to gather around. What I'm doing with the House of Nova, which is the future of couture, is I'm building a community of female entrepreneurs that believe in 3 pillars, that are excited about 3 main pillars that I have as part of the foundation of the community. 1 is fashion, 2 is well-being, and 3 is Web3 and AI education. And so it's really about bringing these innovators and leaders and creators together that have a growth mindset, but are enthusiasts or supporters or creators of fashion, who believe in the importance of balancing mind, body, and soul, who are striving to understand and learn more about this new digital paradigm that we're in. And that's what I'm building my community around. And I feel that those principles in terms of authenticity in its truest sense, and looking at those unique areas of your personality or your brand story, and hone in there to gather around individuals that really resonate with those areas. But I do believe community building is so powerful as we move forward. Individuals are lonely. They want to find their tribe. They want to come together around a commonality. They want to have conversations, especially being locked down for almost 2 years for a lot of us. They want that real human to human connection. And if more brands can look at that and tap into that, then they're going to really be developing a sustainable roadmap moving forward. And so it's not just about the technology that we're discussing, especially in the book that's coming out, The Fashion AI and the Digital Age of Fashion, but it's also the future of fashion. And I do believe community building is the future of fashion as well.
Great. Does anyone else have thoughts about community building and innovation?
I would just add, Nova, what you're saying is 100% on point. And I think what I would add is sort of the foundation of community is connection and acceptance, right? And as we're expanding what virtual communities and digital expression looks like, there's an opportunity for a community to help sort of be involved, but also pave the future of it. So the rise of virtual communities and digital platforms, they're going to provide new avenues for what is pivotal in communities: self-expression, connection, authenticity. And fashion brands will need to, or they will continue to extend their presence into virtual worlds that allows individuals to curate digital wardrobes and attend virtual fashion shows and collaborate with like-minded individuals globally. And that really extends our reach of community and really defines what virtual communities are capable of. But that landscape will foster the greatest sense of belonging and inclusivity.
Just to touch on that, if I may, I think what's really great about these communities is the ability for them to experience digital fashion online as well as in real life. So they get the best of both worlds, because now that as COVID is over, as Nova said that we want to get out there, we want to experience things in real life, but we also want to be able to try on things virtually and see how they look at both levels. So having both of those together is a really immersive experience.
Perfect. So let's touch on going from community. Let's talk about using fashion for good, and how we can do that. And are we doing that? Are people using it for good? We've had a lot of great conversations today about sustainable fashion, really intense panel and some conversations about it. But what other ways, I mean, we can talk about that as well, but are people using fashion for good? How can we use it for good? And just using fashion and technology to make an impact in the world. What are your thoughts on that? Shirley, let's start with you for that one.
How can we use fashion for good or for better or for worse? I think fashion is the probably the number one industry that you can use to promote whatever mindset or philosophy you want to promote, you know, from just a simple t-shirt to how your clothes are made, like we were mentioning earlier. The question you asked before, Anne-Marie, we often blame the fashion industry when it comes to sustainability because, you know, it generates a lot of pollution and a lot of waste, and we all agree on this, but it's also one of the industries that actually talks about it the most, I think. I found out there's not so many industries besides ours that is that seems actually to be so willing to talk about it openly and to be engaged and to be really, I mean, to also be working on solutions to improve that and to not just try to hide it anymore, I think. And Web3 and technology, again, is it's a good thing that it's making this even easier from the stage where you design the product to when you're going to look for fabric or for raw materials, or how you're going to manufacture it, how you're going to distribute it. We talked about logistics before, how you're going to sell it or to retail it, and then what happens when it's at the customer's in his closet, and you know how you also maintain a piece of clothing. And again, lots of waste or pollution or things that are not so sustainable there. And at the same time, I don't know if we have time to mention it, but I was really surprised recently because I found out that now they are making clothes that deteriorate over time. But, you know, coming from the luxury industry, obviously, that's a really weird concept to me. I have to get my head around it because when you buy, you know, a luxury or a piece that's really well made, it's supposed to be lasting in time. And here we are with something that's actually deteriorating all of a sudden. That's a really strange concept, but I'm sure, though, that on certain segments there is a lot of potential here. And again, we talked about our communities and the importance of communities, and also because with everything that's going on in our industry, it's very much driven by the demand coming from the consumers themselves. And in luxury, obviously, that's not possible because, originally it's very much an industry that's from top to down and not so much the other way around. And these days, the power is given back to the consumers, whether it's when they're interacting with the brands that they buy, or even when it's themselves expressing themselves. Again, we mentioned that before. And one point that we didn't mention, and that I think blockchain or some other technologies too are making this possible now, is one, giving the possibility for some creators to sell and to make a living and to co-create things, whether between themselves or with the brands as well. And that's another area where I think lots of things are going to happen in the next few years, and very exciting. Yes.
Amazing. And others' thoughts on fashion for good?
Well, I could always talk about my own experience of what happened that I mentioned before in the Ukraine. So as I talked about, I have this supplier in the Ukraine that makes my gift boxes for I have a jewelry brand. So he was making my gift boxes. And a week before the war broke out in the Ukraine, I messaged him. I said, look, is this war is going to happen? Are you going to be able to deliver? And he said to me, yeah, everything's fine. It's all fake news. Don't pay attention to that. Everything's fine. And so what happened? So this war broke out. And a little bit about the supplier. Him and I used to have a bit of a acidic-like relationship, because I would find things wrong with some of the boxes. And I'd mentioned to him, oh, you're going to have to redo these. I noticed a little flaw here and there. And he would grumble and do it back. So we didn't have a very good relationship before. It was more like a lot of grumbling, because I was just doing business. I was just being critical. But since this has happened, we've been in touch a lot. So, and he's telling me everything that's going. It's like he's my own personal reporter on the ground, telling me things that are happening there that we don't hear about in the news. And it's heart-wrenching to hear about the school he grew up that he went to as a child is no longer there. The building that's facing him is destroyed, and people can no longer go in there. And just every day, I get messages from him, updates what's going on. So I've decided to buddy up with his company. So he has a family-run business, and we're partnering with them. And I would love for other businesses to buddy up with another Ukrainian business, and because it's really brought us closer together, and helped help our relationship get a lot better, and brought us closer than I never thought possible. And something that happened to me about 2 months ago, because he ran out of materials, he couldn't deliver anymore. On my doorstep in New York City was a box from him full of boxes of supplies that had come from the Ukraine. And I didn't order them. I didn't ask for them, but it was really the most beautiful gift I have ever received from anybody, more than all the flowers in the world, knowing how much sacrifice came into that, working to get those materials, and bombing going on, hearing those sirens blasting nonstop. It was just the most beautiful thing. So that's one thing that I'm really proud to partner with his company. And secondly, I founded Gamers Over Guns. This is a very new nonprofit initiative. Gamers Over Guns is an initiative that offers youth from our most vulnerable communities a powerful combination of tech, design, and entrepreneurship with professional leaders in Web3 to help them overcome hardship, level up, and reach their potential as tomorrow's leaders. As we know, in the United States, gun violence is the #1 cause of death in minors. So, I mean, I hear about it. We hear about it all the time in the news. School shootings happen, and it's almost like people are desensitized to it. So I thought, look, I don't know much about nonprofits, but I'm learning about it. And I've got, even though we just launched, there's been enormous traction already. So I'm super excited to be working with professionals in Web3 in this space. And I would like to ask anybody that if you think you have something to mentor or contribute to the program, whether it be like in digital design, please reach out, because it's I think it's something that it's basically digital design is helping to reduce gun violence, and it's saving lives, literally. So yeah, thank you. Please reach out.
Amazing. Maybe we can drop that link into the chat and we'll find it up here.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
Yolanda, for you or Nova?
Go ahead, Yolanda. You can go first.
I think just briefly, I'll say like the opportunity for sustainability to become the norm. What I hope to see is that we're going to be really addressing environmental impact in the industry. And I hope to see brands explore more innovative materials and adopt fashion practices that promote ethical production processes. And I think that's the shift towards sustainability that can really benefit our planet and contribute to more inclusive, responsible fashion industry.
Love that. I love all of these stories. I'm like just listening. I do think, and I agree with Shirley, how fashion is one of the most powerful tools that we can use for storytelling and to make impact, because it touches all of us, no matter where we are. We're wearing something, and when we look at colors and textiles and shapes and textures, all of those things come together to tell a story and a narrative. What I'm super passionate about is well-being and positive mental health, and we see the mental health being at its highest levels across the board. When you have 9-year-olds that want to take their life, you really have to stop and ask, what are we doing wrong? I mean, at 9, you should be, you're still pretending to fly. For something they think they really can fly. And so this is an opportunity for us to use these digital tools to bring immersive experiences around positive well-being, to see the connection that we have with each other as well as nature. One of the things I'm excited about is, a trip that I recently took to South Africa and learning about the elephants in very, very great detail, and realizing how closely we are to the elephant, especially as females, and to bring the awareness of our connection with nature, to the collections that I design, where we can be empowered, through these stories. There's one reserve that I had the fortune to visit, rescues baby elephants and raises them to teenagehood and releases them back into the wild where they can have their own families. And we were able to see a family and engage with these beautiful, beautiful, magnificent creatures. And if you haven't had the chance to see it in person, it's hard to realize what that experience is, but it really puts things in perspective for you. And these are areas that I want to bring attention to through my designs. I believe in the storytelling aspect of fashion and how it is such a unique tool where we can take this element of communication and bring it together with colors and textiles and textures and silhouettes, and really move people to action, to benefit themselves as well as those things around them as well.
That's beautiful. Thank you. So I think we need to wrap up shortly, but I wanted to thank you all for being there. So I'd love to just end with kind of one thought or one sentence from each of you on where you'd love to see the industry go. I think, Nova, you just kind of did yours, but where you'd love to see the fashion industry go with innovation, and what you'd love to see your role or what you're doing in it. So let's start with Tracy.
I'd love to see more collaborations happening in fashion for good. So I'd love in any space that how fashion can contribute for the greater good to make the world a better place to live. That's my main focus right now.
Awesome. And Shirley?
Well, when it comes to technology or sustainability in general, one thing I would love to see more is initiatives that are not just driven by profit necessarily, especially on the short term. And I think that more often than not, that's what's slowing down innovation or even development in general.
I think that's great. Nova?
I like to see fashion and technology come together to really raise consciousness, to really help transform lives, improve our well-being, and improve access. I think one of the things we didn't touch on is financial sustainability, and these tools are great where it's entry for so many individuals around the globe to be able to step in and participate in a thriving economy.
Awesome. And Yolanda?
I would say the things that I'm looking forward to, the predictions are embracing diversity in fashion on a global scale, wearables as everyday essentials. I'm really excited about that. Unleashing creativity in spaces we have yet to explore in fashion, and a real world and virtual integration where we can marry the two and find value in both. But I think the greatest opportunity is that we can usher a new era of creativity and self-expression. And a lot of women in the past fought for that. So it's our duty to definitely see it through.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for closing out the day. I'm inspired. It's been a great day full of wonderful information. So thank you to our audience that was there. And thank you just on behalf of Women of the Future for being a part of this event and being a part of our community. It's such a beautiful community to be a part of. I love just raising all the wonderful voices up. So yeah, you can totally do that. So just wanted to say thank you to everyone that attended today. Our next event will be in September. And we'll update our website with all of that, and we'll let you know what all it is, and we'll send out the recordings from this event. But thank you all, and have an absolutely wonderful evening, day, morning. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye.